Do I think sometimes people overcomplicate things and take what they hear online as gospel? Yes, and I think part of that is applying here. Will Tennyson is apparently going to tell us how to blow up our chests, which is interesting, because although I speak about upper body workouts, I speak about lower body workouts, I rarely ever isolate chest training. And that's what we're going to do today. But before we do so, we've got to do a few things. Firstly, nutrition guide is coming out. I'm not going to lie, upon release of this video, it should be out within the next week, maybe in the next few days, who knows. And on top of that, if at any point throughout this entire video you actually just tolerate the video or learn something from the video, I would very much appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel, because it does mean a lot and it does help the channel out. So if you do that, I would be bloody over the moon. But now we're going to crack on with the video. We're going to learn some things about my boobs.
Tip number 1. Use the Smith machine. The Smith machine gets a bad rap because it's not the actual bench press, but the Smith machine is like a strap-on. It's not the real thing, but man, does it ever work well.
Strong reference, respect it, but I guess what I'd say there, your chest doesn't really know whether it's doing a bench press or a Smith machine bench press. What it's kind of gauging is proximity to failure, so how hard you're training that specific movement, and also stability. You do not want your inability to push to failure due to safety concerns, like it would be maybe with the bench press, or lack of stability to prevent your chest from actually pushing close to failure, if not failure. When you use a Smith machine, you can probably push harder, more safely, without the concern of dropping it and dying. You can also probably do so with more stability, thus reducing any weak links that could potentially hinder your chest's ability to push to sufficient intensity. So yeah, no, I'm actually going to respect that. The Smith machine is great.
Tip number 2, do not pre-exhaust. So pre-exhausting is simply isolating and fatiguing the muscle, the chest, by doing some sort of a pec fly before going into your main compound movement, like the bench press. 99.99% of you do not need to be doing this. You just need to focus on getting as strong as you possibly can on the main compound movements.
Firstly, I actually really rate the fact that he's saying get as strong as you possibly can. I say this to a lot of clients, whether you want to build muscle, lose weight, whatever it may be, get bloody strong. That's never going to hold you back. But I'd actually say that's a fair point. I don't particularly worry about pre-exhausting anything because, quite frankly, you don't need to. Yes, you can if you want to, and I'm sure you could probably present an argument for and against, but quite frankly, it's something you don't need to deep, and it's probably overcomplicating things that don't need to be overcomplicated. Sure, fly variations are great, provided they're not done with a dumbbell, remember that. And before you come to me asking why, I'll say what's the difference between a dumbbell fly and a dumbbell press when looking at the path of the humerus? You're going to say not a lot, so then I say, why would you choose a fly over a press? With pre-exhausting, you probably don't need to worry about it. Keep it simple, keep it effective, stick to your press swing patterns, chuck some flies in there as well if you want to. Bang, laughing.
Partial reps past failure. So I've been told many times, just because I'm finished doesn't mean the job is done. So when you're doing your flat dumbbell press or really any chest exercise, and you're going, you're doing your regular reps, and you get to the point where, it's getting really hard.
He goes on about partial reps and their benefit here for hypertrophy. I guess I riddle the question. Is that worth the mass amount of additional fatigue you're likely going to accumulate? Sure, you can do partial reps if you want to, and sure, you can implement them occasionally, regularly, whatever you choose, but will it lead to better results or more gains? As long as you're training to, if not close to failure, I wouldn't deep doing partial reps unless you want to as like a bit of fun, if that's what you deem to be fun, in which case, let's talk about that. I don't think you're going to get mad gains from just doing those partial reps. I think what's really going to help most people is actually just learning how to train hard enough in general. The extra fatigue might also hinder recovery, which in the long term could then actually hinder gains.
Tip number 4, use machines. They are amazing for the chest, and there's nothing wrong with bringing some toys to the parties.
Again, this goes on to what I said about Smith machine, is ultimately I'd argue that in most cases machines are probably better for hypertrophy than free weights, just because they are more stable. And what we're looking for when we look at effective hypertrophy movements is largely going to be stability, obviously relevant range of motion and stuff as well, but stability is going to be a massive factor. And no, if someone says you're trying to work your stabilizer muscles, don't give me that, because if I'm trying to build my chest, why would I worry about stabilizer muscles, if that's what you call them, when the primary muscles I should be worrying about will be the chest muscles?
No surprise, it's to focus on the stretch position. So as humans, we're born to be shallow, but with the chest, we're forced to go deep.
Yes and no. Stretch position movements are great. A lot of presses, depending on how they're done, are going to be stretch position dominant, which is great. We call that lengthen position. But you also have to remember is although they can be great, there's room for stuff as well. There's room for shorter position work. I'd say mix it up and do both. Lengthen position work may, in this case for the chest, potentially warrant a greater stimulus, but it's also likely going to result in more muscle damage and potentially also be more fatiguing, which in turn could hinder recovery. So I think it's actually fair to say, get a good mix of both lengthened and shortened position movements and you're probably okay. But again, for most people watching this, you probably don't need to worry about that. I'd say if you're going to do 3 chest movements, I do 2 presses and a fly. So 2 either dumbbell presses, machine presses, whatever you want to do, and like a cable or machine fly. That would probably be plenty. Very quickly, got to throw it out there. Link down below in the description, you've got a few things. You've got the link to apply to work with myself on a one-to-one online coaching basis where I can help you achieve your goals, whatever they may be, wherever you may be in the world. You also got the link to the TFNL workout guides, which are bloody cheap, bloody good workout guides that not only tell you what to do, they show you how to do it and tell you why you'll do it too. And you've also got the link to the TFNL group coaching, which for less than $1 a day, you can get some bloody good programming for either at home or at the gym, whichever tickles your pickle. And you can even talk to me and talk to the community in the chat that is available via the Train Heroic platform. So if any of those tickle your pickle, have a gander down below and see what tickles your pickle.
Tip number 7, chest to the sky for all your reps. So this is what I mean. As we're bringing the bar down to our chest, we want to reach our chest to the ceiling, like we're getting ready for the next load. So it's coming down, chest towards the sky, stretch it up.
I guess from a powerlifting perspective, one of the biggest things we were always taught is chest up, shoulders back and down. So you're trying to tuck your shoulders into your back pockets. There's a lot of argument for and against whether you should or shouldn't retract your scapula. I do, because quite frankly, my shoulders have been healthier and my bench press has been better when doing so. Do you have to? Maybe not. I would say a lot of people, when they do press, as they come down, they almost like sink their chest. And I don't think it's helping anybody. It's probably just going to put you in a pretty crappy position to press from, which in turn could limit the effectiveness of movement and also put you at greater risk of injury. So I'd actually say not a bad shout here, but there are arguments for and against.
Tip number 9, and it's not really anything to do with the chest, but it kind of is, and that is to train your triceps. Don't treat it like the side chick.
I completely remove this personally. Sure, you want to train your triceps, yes, but I don't think training your triceps is going to directly lead to a massive chest. I think ultimately, sure, it can help with pressing. The chest will experience its stimulus doing what it does. The triceps will aid in certain areas. I just don't think it's that deep. A lot of actually really good bench pressers, I know a couple personally, have massive triceps, but actually really small chests, but massive bench presses. So yeah, sure, bigger triceps can help the bench press in like pressing patterns. It doesn't necessarily mean your chest is going to grow alongside that. I'd separate them entirely. Chest training, tricep training, 2 different things.
Tip number 10 is programming. So obviously our goal with our chest is to have a chest so big it casts its own shadow, a chest so big it actually enters a room 5 minutes before I do. You know, that's what we all want. Understandable. So I don't recommend doing like this one-off, like every Monday is International Chest Day.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing that most people could actually benefit from learning, not just for chest training, but for all training, is realistically one of the biggest factors that's going to hold you back is going to be your programming or potentially lack thereof. Simplify things as best as you can. For me personally, I like training everything at least twice a week. That's fantastic for me, and that's just my preference. I like to do anywhere from 2 to 5 working sets of that muscle group per session. So that would be anywhere from 4 to 10 working sets per week. I train 2, if not close to failure, so maybe 0 to 2 reps in the tank, normally 0 to 1. I keep it simple. I try and get stronger every week. Not going to happen, but I try my best, and that either comes from doing more weight or more reps. Again, probably not every week, but maybe every 1 to 3 weeks, depending. Nail that, follow the same program for a pretty long time, and just get mad strong at what you're doing. Eat enough food, recover enough, and you'll probably be fine. Don't deep it too much. Really good splits you can consider. You could do full body if you wanted to. You could go upper lower, you could go push pull legs, upper lower, you could go push pull legs. All splits will result in benefit. It's just dependent on what you can recover from. I go 5 days a week because quite frankly I just like going to the gym 5 days a week. But do you need to? Probably not. You could probably see pretty mad gains actually just going to the gym twice a week, to be honest. So you don't have to go to the gym 5 times a week to make sick gains. You can do a lot less. And that's something I often present to people, is more isn't always better. Honestly, if you're deterred by effective programming or training or your goals, whatever it may be, because you think you don't have time to go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week, you don't need to. Even if you're not training right now, training once a week is better than nothing. Training twice a week is pretty solid too. 3 or 4, fantastic. But you can see gains doing any of those things. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So honestly, as a whole, some fair tips, some solid tips. Do I agree with everything? Not necessarily. Do I think sometimes people overcomplicate things and take what they hear online as gospel? Yes, and I think part of that is applying here, because I know he's probably quoting a lot of what Jeff Nippard has said, and Mike Israetel. Like them both a lot. Don't agree with everything they say, but I still like them. It's a matter of understanding there's no one way to do anything. Will has his opinions. I have my opinions, and they may not necessarily align, but I'm sure each of our opinions have some merit. Just my opinion, and I'd love to know in the comment section below what your opinions are and what your favorite chest movement is. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my waffle about my bosoms, and thank you for tolerating the video.